cool. Fancy.
All right, we're live on Facebook. We are almost ready to go on Free Conference Call HG. It is another dynamic Friday. And every Friday, as we turn the clock right over to 9 o'clock, I get more and more used to more and more technology. I appreciate each and every one of you that are joining us across the board, either on Free Conference Call HD, on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you find us. If you are watching us right now, do me a favor, share out the link and comment below if you're watching or if you're listening. I really am excited about today's conversation. Today's conversation, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Oh my gosh, here we go. Today's conversation, for those of you on Free Conference Call HD, for those of you live on Facebook, for those of you catching us today, tomorrow, or in 10 years, is a topic I am really, really excited about. So those of you that are dialed into the conference call, you might miss the second half of today's conversation if you hang up at 9:30. But I would encourage you to switch over to StreamYard, catch us on Facebook, and if possible, catch the entire length of today's conversation. Today on Dynamic Friday, hopefully where you can hear me across multiple vectors of communication, we're going to talk about a topic that almost no organization talks about. We're going to talk about a topic that I promise you, I have never heard another talking head on social media in Final Expense discuss. And we're going to talk about a topic that takes you from step one financially in this business all the way through to where we are in year 10 in development. I'm not going to talk about something I haven't done because I think that's kind of hypocritical, but I'm going to share practical and real suggestions on financial management with you today. And I hope that maybe next week or the week after, we're going to get an accountant on. We might get a financial advisor on. We might pay the money and have a tax lawyer talk with our group, because here's the thing. The kind of stuff that we talk about today is so critical that I hope each and every one of you take something valuable away from it. Appreciate each and every one of you that are on either Free Conference Call HD, Facebook, YouTube, or wherever. Again, your participation and attendance is greatly appreciated. So let's start with number one. Adam, I'm going to walk through some of these together with you. I'm going to say it. I'm going to get your commentary on it. And I think together, this is going to be the kind of conversation that somebody takes something exciting away from. I have it broken down into 10 steps. I'm going to go over what those 10 steps are, and then we're going to discuss them one by one together. Step one is, as you get your financial plan together, it's lead management or production based on free leads. Step two, and it can take place at the same time you do step one, is a family budget and a business budget. Step three is tax savings. And we're going to break down each and every one of these and discuss them for the group and social media to hear. Step four is organizing your carrier lineup into the big three and lowering your advances on all the rest. Step five, I think I got that right, is creating and building your 3-month emergency fund. Pretty simple concept once you know your budget and saving and putting it aside. Step six, it's time to be an LLC. You know, I think a great portion of the producing audience is not an LLC. I can attest that Adam Bursan is an LLC and has a far more creative one than most. Maybe it's time when people get to step six to create their own. Step seven, a 6-month emergency fund. Pretty common sense discussion on that one. We'll get to it in a moment. Step eight, Medicare, and using your Medicare money to debt reduce some of the dumb debt you have in the world. And moving your secondary carrier portfolio to as earned. And hiring staff. Adam, I was walking back from the bus stop after walking my son to the bus today, and I had an idea that I'm going to have to test before I talk about, but it has a lot to do with hiring staff. Step 9 is it's time to become an S corporation. It's kind of like you graduate from being yourself to being an LLC, from being an LLC to being an S corp. And in that step, you're going to talk about max funding, a SEP account, and an IUL. Step 9. Step 10, a financial management team that manages your book of business, dealing with an accountant, dealing with a tax lawyer, dealing with the type of financial professionals that help your business become a financial success. So Adam, those are going to be the 10 topics or 10 tips on financial management that we discussed today. How do they sound? And do you think someone might learn something from that?
Yeah, I'm probably going to learn something from it too. So,
all right, awesome.
So
I'm going to turn the sound down
good.
here. I think we're good. Cool.
Yeah,
all right, so let's do it.
All right.
Step number 1 is lead budget. Now, I think one of the first things I ever heard you talk about on Facebook, besides knocking doors in the car, because everybody loves to film in their car, is a lead budget. And this is probably the simplest concept to discuss. And this is probably one of the topics that us as an agency have tackled greatly the last couple of months, is having a lead budget, be it $780 a week, be it $100 to start, whatever your lead budget is, having that from the very beginning, because you're never going to make it to tax savings, to LLC, to S corporation, or to selling your business if you can't get on a weekly lead budget. What are your thoughts about step number 1 being having a lead budget, or if you're on a free lead program, having that production-based requirement become something you pursue harder than anything else that you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's crucial to always have that money set aside for leads. I mean, leads is like the lifeblood of the business. That's how you're going to continue to move forward and to have people to see on a regular basis. So like, that's like the lifeblood. You got to have people to see. So if you're not budgeting your money and setting money aside for future lead orders, well, then you're going to put yourself to the point where you're close to out of business. And I've seen it happen where, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of agents in the past that were great at selling. They were great at going out and writing business. They weren't great when it came to money management, and they were in and out of the business. Even though they were so good at selling, because they weren't great at managing their money, they never set money aside for leads. And yeah, it got to the point where they couldn't afford leads anymore, and then they're looking for a new job.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick death spiral. I've got it down to a science, and I've watched it happen so many times before. That's why it's so scientific, and that's why it's so tragic. I've seen agents say, stop my leads. I just don't want them. I've got too many. Well, you got too many because you weren't working, first off, but stop my leads. And I set the clock. And within 6 weeks, they're nowhere to be found. And within 6 months, they're nowhere in the business. It's almost like final expense euthanasia, except it's far more, it's like final expense cancer. Euthanasia is a lot quicker. Final expense cancer. The moment they're diagnosed, they got 6 months to live and they're off back into working a job. A step 2 is having a family and a business budget. Now, if you're on free leads or you're buying your leads, this step isn't any different. It's going over how much money you need to make each month, going through your bills, going through your budget, going through every single subscription that you have, and figuring out how much money you actually need to make. Now, I'll tell you a funny story because I think stories are sometimes beneficial. I like to watch the Phillies, like you know. I like to watch the Orioles, like you know. And I live in an area where without cable, which I don't pay for, you can't really do both. So I bought Fubo. Fubo costs like $80 or $90 a month. It's exorbitant. It's expensive. It's unnecessary. But I said I'm only going to sign up for Fubo during the baseball season. So I made sure that I canceled it now that the baseball season is over. So having a family budget is important by knowing exactly how much money you need to make, knowing exactly how much you're going to spend, incorporating into that your weekly lead budget, incorporate into that your tax savings, incorporating into that an additional 10% on top of it. I call that 10% necessary because some of your products aren't going to pay full commission. That's just the way it works. Some of your stuff's going to fall off the books. That's just the way it's going to work. That 10% cushion makes up for comp variations and lapses. And you find out what that number is, and then really simply you divide it by 4. This is like a first grade kind of math. And when you divide that number by 4, guess what? Now you know how much you need to write every single week. And if you don't have that number and you're listening in or watching today, you have your homework assignment for the weekend. Plain and simple. There's a Edward Jones budget sheet available in our Google Drive. You can look it up online. You can download someone from anywhere. Come up with a freaking budget. Because if you don't know how much you need to make, the rest of this is irrelevant. I think a lot of times people could get the money monkey off their back a lot sooner, Adam, if they actually know how much they need to make so they actually don't stress out so much. And I think having a budget and a business budget is a really critical step in your financial progression. What do you think?
Yeah, I think having a budget is crucial, but I think also I love the fact that in our business we can go out and decide how much money we want to make in order to have the things that we want to have and allow our family and our kids to be able to do the stuff and activities and things like that they want to do. If one of my kids wants to do something extra, well, heck, let's figure out, let's fit it into the budget. How much more business do I need to write this month? And that's just, I came from, salary with a little bit of commission, and that was fine and dandy. But same thing, it's like you do the math, and it's like at the end, it's like you're holding yourself back when you can just go out there and you can figure it out how to do it yourself and just go out there. And as I've always said, bet on yourself. But yeah, having a budget, you got to know how much money you need to make. And hey, that's part of the reason why I set my goals pretty high every week. I got a lot on my plate. So, I got to get out there and write business. But you know what? I mean, I put my family first, and I'm not gonna, I'm not going to be defeated in order for them to not be able to, do the things that they want to do.
Well said. Well said. And hopefully you guys are taking something away from today's conversation. If you are, comment, let us know what really seems to be sticking out to you so we can kind of dive into that a little bit further. If there's something you want us to talk about and you're watching live or you're on Free Conference Call HD, let us know and we can continue to answer your questions in real time. That's really the whole purpose of Dynamic Friday, is to get the engagement out of what you want and for us to discuss. In addition to what Adam and I shared already about number 2, it's also important with your family and your business budget to have an understanding of what that number is, because without an understanding of what that number is, honestly, the rest of it's meaningless. I heard an agent say, I'd like to write 10K a week. Well, why? What is it for? What is that going to accomplish? And what happens if you don't do it? Like, if you don't do it, what is the ramifications of that miss? And if you do it, what happens when you did? So having a family budget and a business budget that actually matters and is based around some form of reality really helps you accomplish that a lot easier. Step number 3.
Another thing there. Hold on, Chris, real quick on that one too. Talking about that, like you said, someone saying, I want to make 10, or I want to write 10,000 in premium every week, but really nothing to work towards. I think that's a setback for some people. Like they know they want to make the money, but sometimes you need things to be able to work for or work towards. I've told agents in the past, like one guy I remember, he needed a new car. He's like, I just don't know if I can afford it. I'm like, go buy it. Go take the loan out on it. That'll give you something to work towards. If you know you have a car payment and you have to make that payment every month, well, that's going to push you to get out there and work. So I think that's something too. You need things that you got to be able to work towards. And I think that's motivating. And that it kind of helps you to get up and get out every day and be able to do more.
I was thinking, especially for final expense agents learning and incorporating Medicare during AEP, final expense agents are really, really motivated on making money right now. Like today, tomorrow, next week. I get it. That's what we've all done for a decade or more together. When it comes to Medicare, especially during AEP, you're working hard, you're learning something that is brand new to you, and you're not making a damn dime doing it. Having a thing that you're pursuing in the process makes it even more real and more motivating. We watched it happen last year. Ricky Raymond's goal with AEP was to take all the money he made and take that money and take his family on a trip to Asia. And he made it happen. So to final expense agents watching that are learning and incorporating Medicare during AEP and not making any of that upfront money right away, have something that you're pursuing that this deposit is going to make happen. I got a lot of money to catch up on. Great wedding that cost a lot of money and a lot of stuff to clear up there. Spent a lot of money on a dog that didn't make it, a lot of debt to clear there. I have a lot of aspirations for our agency. I think to myself, if we as an agency can write X amount of business, all that override can be reinvested in more staff, more technology, a recruiter, who knows? So have that AEP goal mean something to you and something that you can do something with when it deposits itself in January. Ready to go over to step 3, a fun topic, taxes.
Oh yeah.
So here's the thing, guys. I'm sure you may have realized this. You could have $500,000 in your bank account right now. $500,000, $500,000. And if you haven't at least filed your taxes, you couldn't buy a $500,000 mortgage if you wanted to. You can't. Like, a lot of the big things that you want to do when you've really figured this business out, a lot of the things that you want to invest your money towards, rental properties, big houses, nicer cars, boats, big, whatever, things that require loans, you can't do if you don't have your taxes in order. That's why it's important early on in step 3 to put money aside for taxes. I know it sucks. I know it's awful, but what's more awful is having to find out that you don't have all the ducks in order to do what you want to do. Adam, about 3 years ago, I was attempting to get a mortgage to purchase the house I'm currently sitting in. So we know the story ends pretty good. And I had to drive to the IRS office in Central PA and sit in front of a lady in a recorded booth that kind of felt like an interrogation. And it also kind of felt like a mob experience because she says to me, I'm going to give you a number. And if you can pay that number, I'll give you the paper you want. I'm like, oh, okay. I want the house. Well, what's the number? And she writes it down on a piece of paper and she slides it over to me in this little recorded booth in Central PA. And the number on the page was $95,000. And she says, you give me a check for that number and I'll give you the paper you want. And like sweat began to pour down my back like I was in a courthouse thinking to myself, what do I do? So I stepped out of the room. I walked around the building. I came back 2 hours later and I gave her the check. I would have much rather been prepared to not have to do that at that moment in time. But that's the reality that we're trying to encourage folks right now, because if you don't have your taxes in order, all the dreams and realities you want to will into existence will not happen. So what do you think about saving for taxes?
I mean, I think it's another thing that isn't talked about enough. I think honestly, I don't know. I think most successful people in this business at some point have probably had a reality check when it comes to their taxes. It's happened to me in the past. I remember my first big year, I wrote a ton of business. I think I ended up owing the IRS back like $25,000 or $30,000, just totally unexpected, and ended up having to get put on a payment plan. And, a payment plan, great, at least you're able to get put on a payment plan, but you're getting hit with penalties. You're getting hit with interest. You end up spending a heck of a lot more than what you would have owed had you just been responsible and set your money aside the way that you needed to. So I always tell people, talking about a lead budget, also a tax budget. I mean, you really need to be able to put about half of your income away for leads and for taxes. And heck, if you end up at the end of the year ahead, great. You're better off to have more set aside than not enough. So yeah, you definitely need to be putting money aside for taxes. Otherwise, it's just same thing as a lead budget. If you don't do it, it's sooner or later, you're going to be out of business. You're going to be back looking for that W-2 job where taxes are taken out and you're kind of limiting yourself to the potential of what you could be in the business.
Absolutely. If you guys and I'll leave the tax comment with this one. I was speaking to my accountant recently, and he said it's time for us to discuss this issue with our tax attorney. And just talking to the tax attorney costs $400 an hour. Having the tax attorney actually work with you costs $3,500. This could all be solved a lot easier in step 3 by setting aside your tax money early so that you're not having those conversations later. Let's get more practical. Step number 4, it's focusing on just a few freaking companies. We've done this so good the last year or more. I'm really proud of folks for making that happen. Focus on a few companies because you can do everything you need to do with just 3 companies. I'm being truthful with you. You don't always have to be the cheapest. You don't want to be the most expensive, but you want to make sure that you're focusing your business on a couple companies. And I'm not saying you can't be contracted with everybody else known to man that doesn't completely suck. I'm not saying that. We have access to every single company that doesn't suck, and we'll set you up with them when the time is right. But all those other companies that you have to be on lower advances. As soon as you contract with a new company, click the button that says 6-month advance, 3-month advance, as earned. It's literally an option in your contracting packet you probably never noticed. I had an agent recently ask, well, can I get a 12-month advance on this product? No, absolutely not. What a horrible idea. No. I spoke to a carrier rep at a company recently that he said, I wish everybody was on a 6-month advance all the time because it would just build their back end income so much quicker. So the step number 4 in your financial progression, as we discuss it today, is focusing on a few companies and having everybody else on limited advances. Now, as you turn your advances down, here's the thing you're going to notice. Your income is going to drastically increase and drastically stabilize in months 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And you're going to text me and thank you that when you picked up a new company or you went back and realized you only write this company every so often, you lowered your advances. Chasing debt is no fun, and debt never goes away. And even a good, solid, lead buying, hardcore producing, consistent, ethical agent, if they write one piece of business with one company once a quarter, is going to be chasing debt with that one company just because that's how final expense works. So lower your advances and you'll find it actually increases your income over time. Adam, your thoughts on focusing on a big 3 and limiting your advances on all the others?
Yeah. I mean, I've, kind of been independent now for close to a couple years. And I mean, I could count on one hand the carriers that I'm consistently writing business with, really more like 1 or 2, and then every once in a while, a few others. But no, it makes sense to limit that advance. One thing too, another thing I think people don't talk enough about, not just lowering the advance like to like a 6-month advance or bringing it down to a 3-month or to like an as earned, but even limiting the amount of the advance, like setting up a max advance. And there's carriers that do that where their max advance might be 1,200. It might be 1,500.
Might be 1,000.
And people, sometimes people, they don't like that. But in the end, honestly, it's protecting you, because who wants to pay a $3,000 chargeback back? I mean, you could lose a week of income. Some people probably 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month. And if you get, if you get hit with, if you get hit with a big chargeback like that. So, it's not bad to set up a max advance. And then heck, if you're writing good business, you're going to see a lot more on that back end. Same with like a 6-month. I had a guy, prior company that I had to terminate because his persistency was just out of line. It just was too bad. His metrics were horrible. He was writing too many people in one house. Like he would write 4 people in a house. They would fall off, and then he'd go back and write them again, and then they'd fall off again. So like he's getting knocked like with all these families worth of chargebacks. And it just, they pretty much said, this guy's quality of business is horrible. You got to get rid of him. I was able to talk the company into bringing them back maybe, 6 months later, but they said, well, we'll bring them back, but we'll put them on a 6-month advance. And he was cool with that. And it got to the point where he actually liked it. He liked the 6-month advance. He's like, at first I didn't think I was going to like it. Just like anything else, your budget kind of starts to work with the money that you have coming in. If anything, it pushed him to go out and write more business because maybe he needed to make more money. And then he's going to see a lot more on that back end. It's going to make his life a heck of a lot easier once that advance period has passed. So yeah, I think not only setting up like a 6-month advance or 3-month or going as earned on some carriers, but also look at the max advance. You don't need to be advanced $3,000 on a case of business when we're dealing with people that aren't great at managing their money themselves. So no, limit it, $1,500, you write enough business, you're going to have more than enough money coming in, even on a max advance limit.
Yeah, I think a lot of agents, as soon as they make a lot of money, they begin to operate with that mindset when you have to be super conservative, at least for the first several years. I didn't add an additional item to my budget for probably 18 to 24 months of my beginning career. Eventually, when I decided I needed to add money, all that I did is increased my production goal, and it worked. And I tested it beforehand before I did it. But step number 5, as we get close to wrapping up on free conference call and going exclusively live across social media, is an emergency fund. An emergency fund is so critical because guess what? You're going to have an emergency. Sorry, it's going to happen. Life can be really brutal to you at times. I've lived it. I've experienced it. And I thought to myself about 2 years ago, this is literally the worst month of my 30s. Like, how could this get any worse? But guess what? I had enough money. I had enough money management. I had enough residuals and renewals and persistence into my business that emergency, that month didn't take me out of the business. But here's the reality of it. Most agents, Adam, I'm sure you would agree in a moment, are one emergency short of being out of this business. Just one. And that isn't even like the worst of emergencies. It could be like low scale on the spectrum of life tragedy. One emergency away from being knocked out of the business. Have you seen it before?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at COVID. I mean, how many agents or people that were in business are no longer in this business because of that, because they were used to going out and seeing people, writing business. They didn't have money stashed away. And when everything shut down, they couldn't handle, the new way of doing business for the time. Some people weren't good at it. At the time, for me, honestly, fortunately, I was happy that I was with the company where I had so many agents at the time that were writing business. It was definitely a good security blanket. But yeah, those that didn't have that luxury, I mean, I saw so many people that were in and out of the business. I mean, you got to be willing to adapt and learn, but you also need to, you got to have that money set aside. What if something like that were to happen again? I mean, who knows the way the world is these days? I mean, anything could happen, and you just got to be prepared and ready. And, I mean, the last thing you want, things get shut down again, or who knows? I mean, you see, I worry these days about other stuff like, all these cyber attacks and stuff like that. Like, what if something happened or all of a sudden, stuff is just shut off. You can't access certain things. You got to be prepared. But yeah, you got to have that money set aside to, just make sure that, look at worst case scenario. Is my family going to be okay if the worst possible thing happens out there?
Yeah, we're going to switch over and go exclusively live on Facebook and YouTube and StreamYard. You guys can click the StreamYard link on Free Conference Call HD and join us there and get involved in the conversation if you choose. Otherwise, have an outstanding and successful and a profitable Friday. But we're going exclusively live across social media at this moment. Adam, here's the thing. A 3-month budget or 3-month emergency fund is a pretty easy thing to will into existence. And I would suggest that the 3-month emergency budget be approximately $15,000, like enough to be able to run your business, pay your bills, feed yourself, all those type of things, which I think is pretty reasonable. And setting aside an emergency fund is critical because something is going to go wrong in people's lives. And you can't build out a bigger financial plan if you don't have it built on the bedrock of an emergency budget. Let's go over to step 6. It's LLC time. You, sir, are an LLC. I am as well. Graduated to S Corp, I think, last month. But it's not fun. I was talking to an agent of yours recently who's going to be recontracting as an LLC, going through all the work to go through all the contracting to get all that set up. But the tax advantages, the liability protection, and the reality that as an LLC, you're actually a business and not just some person getting paid into your own social security number. When was it that you set up your LLC in your business? Yeah, I have my audio on the mic and I have my audio on the speaker, but I'm not sure I can quite hear you. Maybe you got to jump out of the StreamYard and get back in for me real quick. Tom, can you hear me okay in the StreamYard? Good. Okay. Let's continue forward and discuss LLC as Adam logs in and logs back out, or out and then in again. Just drop me a comment and let me know you can hear me okay on the StreamYard as well. So here's the reality. Creating an LLC is actually pretty easy. And if you got an accountant that you work with or you've got some sense behind you, you can go ahead and get that set up without too much trouble. Getting an LLC is important because you can now move yourself under your corporation and protect yourself from a lot of liability and protect yourself from paying an excessive amount of taxes. Let's get a quick audio check here. We good now audio wise, Adam?
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear. Perfect. Awesome. So when was it that you set up an LLC over the course of your 20 years in the business?
Uh, I have not set up an LLC. Uh,
Well, you're a something
I
corp. You're a
I have I have the S corp.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
my accountant had me set up an S corp. I never set up an LLC. And to be quite honest, I know you talked about maybe having your accountant on to talk about this, maybe like next week or one of the following weeks coming up here. I think that'll be good. Yeah, honestly, I wish I knew more, honestly, about this stuff. Yeah, I'm set up with an S corp. I do understand the tax savings of it. It's a little bit different. You do need to be responsible when it comes to kind of the same thing, like budgeting, setting money aside. Essentially, you're paying yourself as like a W-2. So
Mhm.
like my S corp, I'm set up as Adam Bursan, an employee under Adam Bursan Incorporated.
Mhm.
So then I get paid to Adam Bursan Incorporated from the insurance carriers, and then from there I set like a weekly payroll, and then basically you can look and say, let's see, what's the average insurance agent make? And you can set
Not
that as
much.
your, yeah, you can set that as your annual income if you want. And that's what you can W to yourself. And then each week,
Yeah.
just that money can come through as payroll. And that's the money that you're being taxed on W-2. And so, yeah, I know there for sure, there's a lot of tax savings there. Like I said, my wife, I mean, she even knows a lot more about it than I do. She does my taxes a lot of the time, but I'd have her on, but she had to drop the kids off at school. So
Yeah, having that level of organization makes your business more real and makes it like a business. It just doesn't make it like a thing that you do. And I think so many agents struggle to progress into the business mindset because nobody ever pushes them into this step of the development phase. Step 7, increasing your emergency fund from 3 months to 6 months. Because any financial advisor is going to tell you not only setting yourself aside this money in a separate money market account will gain you far more interest, having that money set aside is critical before they can do things like a SEP funding and retirement funding and financial planning. So I think step number 6 is really helping to increase that emergency fund so that you've got that money set aside. I had my financial advisor on last Friday, the same time I had my accountant on, because I was worried about money. I was like, is everything okay? I spent too much, way too much lately. And I'm playing catch up and I need to be told everything's okay. And if it's not, I need you to be real with me so I can figure out how to fix it. And he's like, well, you remember about 6 months ago when I told you you needed to move money over to the money market account? No, I don't remember that at all. He's like, you have money over there. Remember that $50,000 I took out of your account? No, I forgot about it. He's like, it's over there. It's okay. And it's gaining way better interest than the money in your checking account. Why do you have that money in your checking account? I'm like, I don't know. It makes me feel better. I'm sorry. Makes me no. And he just keeps, you need that level of encouragement sometimes. But my encouragement to those watching today and commenting and subscribing and sharing this information with others is build up that emergency fund. Here's the easiest way to do it. And I did it as a paramedic making barely enough to pay the bills from the very beginning. Adam, I set up a Capital One account where there was no physical location for me to go to. There was no debit card for me to use. And I set it up online where a $50 or $100 a week went into this separate account. And I barely had enough money to keep track of the utility bill and the electrical bill. We're talking back in like 2010, 2011, where I figured out in Philadelphia that during the winter, you could fall behind on one of the bills and they wouldn't shut the utilities off because it was cold. Like I had figured it out to that point. But I also figured out that if I set $50 or $100 aside a week, that was a good idea. And guess what? When I decided to start in this business, that emergency fund of $50 to $100 a week gave me the peace of mind to give this a go. That if I didn't work and I was absolutely awful at it, I wouldn't be homeless. So setting aside an emergency fund could be as simple as $25, $50, or $100 a week, or it could be significantly more, but anybody can really do it.
yeah, it's funny, Chris, the stuff we're talking about. I think about how I talked about, I just loaded a podcast the other day, we talked a lot about the the realistic expectations of this business. And this kind of adds on to that, everything we're talking about today. I think that we're talking about stuff that is going to help a lot of agents, but it's also almost like a reality check, like things that
Hmm.
people don't think about. Yeah, I could make a lot of money, but I got to do this, 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 and this. So in the end, realistically, yeah, it's not easy. It's a tough business, but you got to be responsible. The longer you do it, the more income that's going to grow and build. But uh, I think it's good that we're talking about these sort of things, because I think it does kind of show people those realistic expectations of really what could be. Yeah, you can make a lot of money, but you also need to do all these other things that we're talking about today. Like you said, increasing the emergency fund from 3 to 6 months, that's awesome. I wish I had it that much set aside, uh, and I'll get there. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's important to be responsible like that, to be able to have that much income set aside to be able to, move forward. And like we said, if the worst thing happens out there, at least our family is taken care of, and the utilities aren't going to get shut off. God, that would suck.
Yeah, it's a scary phase in life, but I could still save $50 a week in the process. And I think it's important to recognize too, as we talk about progressing through this financial steps, is that so much of the training that people talk about, dialing the phones, knocking doors, giving a presentation, it's rudimentary. It's really basic. It's like 101 level stuff. How to handle an objection. We talk about it all the time. We have 250 plus free trainings over the course of the year. We talk about it plenty, but we also have to talk about this kind of stuff that isn't super, super exciting. But if you don't ever really do it, you're never really going to get to the point where you can retire, where you can sell your business, where you can pass your business on to somebody else, where it becomes a business. So as much as we'll always continue to talk about the fundamentals and the basics of the business, it's important to really deep dive into the business part of the business at the exact same time. I'll tell you a funny story. As we got more and more in line with creating this into a tangible business the last 12 to 24 months, even running things through Stripe and LLCs and S Corps and all the things you're supposed to do, setting up an appointment setting team, training the appointment setting team. The realities of the business become ever more real when it's real. I had one of our advisors reach out to me yesterday, and he said, "You realize you texted 24,000,000 times in Kixi recently?" I said, "Yeah, our appointment team works their butt off." He's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Well, why? What happened?" He's like, "You're texting direct mail, right?" Yeah. He's like, "Can't do that. TCPA violation." If you got caught on that, you'd get caught for $4 million of a TCPA violation. So stop doing that. Hopefully I didn't confess live on Facebook of a TCPA violation, but hopefully somebody heard that, isn't going to sue me, and is going to protect themselves, because you can't do that. It's non-compliant. So we're going to adapt. We're going to overcome. We're going to continue to set appointments. But when it's a real business and there's lives and income and tangible assets on the line, you make real different decisions. When it's just you, it's like, whatever. Who's going to sue me? I'm broke anyway. No, it's a business now. You got to take it far more seriously, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Um, and yeah, God, there's just so many different, much compliance and rules and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, like you said, I mean, when people are just kind of out there independently, they're just focusing on just going out and making money. But yeah, when you're taking your business to the next level, you for sure need to just kind of be maybe even a little bit more responsible with all that. When I'm calling leads myself, I don't care. I don't care if that lead's 3 years old. I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and call it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the people that I'm dealing with on a regular basis, I don't think that they're going out of their way to try to figure out how to sue people. So I'm just, I'm
It
just not
only
too
takes
concerned
one.
about it, honestly.
It
Yeah,
only
yeah,
takes
you're right.
one.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
sure someone will probably comment that too. I thought the same thing until I got, sued or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
important to be
He said
responsible.
he was in the boardroom, the courtroom on a TCPA case years ago. Look it up. Equita Financial got sued on a TCPA violation, and every agent got like $20 as a result. It was the silliest thing ever. But we have to protect ourselves from mistakes other people have made, because that's leadership. Like, leadership is saying, "Hey, I did that and bad things happen. Don't do that," so that you don't end up in that same position. Let's talk about step number 8. We got about 15 to 20 minutes left. It's using Medicare in that first year to reduce unnecessary outstanding debts that you have. You just recently began writing Medicare. Heck, you probably wrote more last week than most Medicare agents with years of experience. Just share a few thoughts on that, like first week of doing final expense and Medicare at the same time, so that the final expense audience can gain some confidence to do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I would be happy to kind of continue on with our call. I'm not sure what you have going on, Chris, but I'd be happy to kind of run through my week too. Just kind of go through it because it was pretty cool, honestly. You kind of see the value in the Medicare from doing it, and it's really not that hard. So yeah, I'd be happy to kind of run through that too. We don't have to right now, but maybe after you go through your 10 steps, I'd be happy to kind of run through my week and how it went. But
we got
yeah,
one more after
honestly,
that, so we can definitely break down your week after our final tip.
Yeah, you talk about Ricky kind of building up those renewals, and I've talked to several other people who have always said, you write 300 to 400 pieces of Medicare business, you're looking at $100,000 in renewals every year. And so right away, I mean, to me, that's like a goal. Looking at that, well, heck, I mean, that's how you can really build some renewals. And forever, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't hesitant. I don't know if I definitely had like a fear of doing Medicare, but I think it was just more with final expense. You get that upfront money, you get those quick sales. And it was, I almost feel like that maybe held me back a little bit from the Medicare because that was my mindset. But like this week, there were people that I sat down with to talk about final expense that I didn't get anywhere with, but I ended up writing Medicare business. So like that's business in the past where I would have had gotten up, had left, had walked out with nothing. That, I mean, like I said, I mean, I have notes. I'll go through my week in a little bit here, but yeah, just right there. I mean, I wrote a lot of business on people that I didn't even write final expense business on this week. That so it was a nice thing to have. And I'm not even really thinking about the money that I'll be making on the Medicare. I'm just going to write as much as I can. And honestly, I haven't really looked that deep into it. I don't even know how I get paid. I don't know if I get paid in a lump sum chunk or if I'm getting paid as earned on all this stuff. I really have no idea. I'm just going to write the stuff, and
do it.
If money starts flowing into the bank, great. But to me, I mean, I focus on the final expense. I'll write that Medicare and heck, not worry about the money that's coming on it. And I guess if I have that mindset, I could end up writing quite a bit of business and seeing a lot more income coming in. My goal is to get to that point of writing at least 300 to 400 of them to build up that renewal stream. And right now I've written 5. So we got 395 more to go.
Well said. A guy posted in the big Medicare group how he had over 1,000 just UHC clients. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's really cool. Like, congratulations to whoever that guy was. And then I did the math on it because he said it took him about 6 years to get there. It was approximately 163 applications on average per year. Hey, that's achievable. Only 163 over the course of a year. And you did the math on it. And I'm like, that man is making $20-some thousand a month on just United Healthcare business. Like, congratulations. How freaking awesome is that? If everybody could just get to that point, well, here's the thing. They could. It is achievable. And as a final expense producer and diversifying into Medicare, if all that it does is it opens up or keeps doors open that would have been closed before, that's just money you wouldn't have made before. And if all you're doing for the first 12 months is picking up the low-hanging fruit that's there in front of you, that alone is going to give you your mortgage payment in renewals. And my encouragement to folks when they begin to add Medicare, all that money that you get should just go to debt that you got. Like, don't budget that into anything else. Like, it doesn't count for anything but debt reduction. Your car payment, your mortgage, your credit cards, your emergency fund, all that other stuff we've talked about in the prior 7 steps, your Medicare money should be going towards that. And then in 3 years, when you look up and you're getting $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month in renewals, awesome, you made it.
Yeah.
Now you're going to hire staff that are going to supervise that because you're going to want to keep that nest egg going, serviced, babysat, whatever it takes. Then you're going to hire staff and reinvest in your business because your business is now making 6 figures on nearly autopilot. We're going to move over to step 9 and then step 10 so that Adam can discuss his week, which is the practical kind of content that drives Dynamic Friday, the kind of content that educates, motivates, and makes you money. Because so much of the content out there is crap. I'll be honest, it's just crap. Like, it's crap that's inaccurate. It's crap that's no good. It's stuff that hasn't been practically applied in 10 years. The stuff he's going to talk about, he lived and experienced and can benefit you. Step 9 is if you have an LLC, now you need to be an S Corp or just get the S Corp. Whatever you need to do, you need to be on payroll of your own company. And guess what? You need to be max funding your SEP account. If you don't know what a SEP account is, you need to talk to our financial planner. He'll help you set one up. Then you need to sell yourself an IUL, assuming you qualify for one. If you don't, figure out something different. You need to max fund that IUL so that you can use it the way it's designed to be done. And you need to be setting aside thousands of dollars a month for retirement. Yes, retirement. Yes, you do not want to be running appointments and knocking doors at 82 years old. I don't. Adam, do you want to be rewriting Miss Johnson's granddaughter for the 3rd time at 82 years old?
Definitely not. No, I definitely don't want to be 82 years old and still having to go out and write business. Definitely not.
I want to be somewhere in the Bahamas, at a condo across from you, like reminiscing on the beach about the time we rewrote Miss Johnson for the 13th time on the next carrier to enter the market. But you're never going to get there viewing audience if you don't have a plan to get there. And I saw it before. And if that's the life choice that some people make, God bless them for doing it. But I saw a guy at a Lincoln Heritage meeting who I swear to God was 82 years old being celebrated for his production last month. I mean, if that's something he does just for something to do, that's his life decision. But if he needed to do that, that's tragic. I mean, it really is. And, if I want to run appointments at 80 because I'm widowed and have nothing to do, that's my decision. But I do not want people having to be dependent on first-year commissions at a point they should be enjoying their golden years of their life.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, yeah, no, I see people too out there that, you never know what could happen either with your health as you get older. I mean, if you haven't prepared, you might not be in good enough health to still be able to go out and work, into your 70s or 80s. If you're not responsible with your money and you put yourself in that sort of situation, well, then you're in a real tough spot, especially if you're used to writing a certain amount of business and bringing in a certain amount of income, but then your health doesn't allow you to be able to still kind of perform at the same level. Yeah. So you definitely, that's why everything we're talking about today, I think, is important when it comes to money management and, setting that money aside. And like you said, I think it'll be good to have that accountant on too. I'll probably even pick up some ideas for sure.
Yeah. And the reality is, as we're working towards this progression in real life myself, our agency advisor said, part of the reason why you want your business to be as organized as a business is what happens if you die and your wife doesn't want to run it and she wants to sell it. If you don't have any of this stuff put together, ain't no one going to buy it. Oh, okay. It's like you have something somebody would buy. You really do. You've got a great thing put together with a lot of great people making a lot of money with a lot of structure and stability. People would buy that. But if it's not on paper and it's not real and it's not put together, there's literally nothing for them to purchase. So in a worst case scenario, if she's in that position and she doesn't want to run it or keep it and she wants to sell it, you want this there for that particular reason. And it was a very enlightening conversation,
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I think that kind of could also lead into your final one. I know you'll probably bring it up here, but just the fact that you get to the point where you need help. And it would be, like you said, it would be hard to kind of sell something off if you don't have it put together and organized where people can really see everything you have going on. And that's something too. It's so hard to track business.
Yeah.
When you have an agency and you're writing, you got agents that are writing business all over the place. I think it helps with what we do, where we just kind of stay in good communication with our agents, and it's more of a celebratory thing. People hop on the group me and they post their numbers, and it's just kind of more of a, like just a little thumbs up, you get that little dopamine rush or whatever. But again, it helps to track the business too. I'm sure you probably have a person on staff that's going through the group me even and seeing people's numbers and charting them down to kind of keep track of stuff.
Yeah. They even read production reports on carriers that we don't sell all that often or that we have broker distribution on. And if I see names that don't make any sense, I'm like, who is that? Like who? And then I have to look to make sure it's okay. Or I look to read the report to make sure there's not an issue there. And having the VA staff pulling reports on carriers that we don't, we have agents that don't live in Group Me keeps us protected. Having agents in Group Me keeps us protected. When agents go ghost, we get, a yellow flag goes up to protect the agency. Debt hurts. Debt takes away from being able to do things for other people. Roll-up debt inhibits the ability to reinvest. So, there is no form of micromanagement here. Legally speaking, there's no form of micromanagement, but there's also plenty of protection built in for people to be able to continue to operate, reinvest, and run the company. So step number 10, and then we're going to get into your week, which I think is exciting, is having a financial team, an accounting team, an administrative team tracking your business. We have a financial team that tracks our business, reads every single deposit, checks every single carrier site, inspects the bank account better than I do, and will alert me like, what is this? Why is that happening? Do you know about this? I'm like, I had no idea. I owed American Amicable $4,000. She's like, well, I do. Why? What happened? How do we fix it? Like reads that kind of stuff because that's their job. I had a conversation with her 2 weeks ago, and I said, I spent another hour and a half tracking deposits from bed, and I can't do it anymore. It's too much work. Can you create a specific spreadsheet that just shows this stuff so I don't have to do it and I can go to bed? She's like, yeah, I already do that. Why aren't you reading this report? I'll make it even easier for you to read it. It's right here. Oh, okay. And then just having that level of organization allows one day the business to be at the table with private equity, the business to be transferred to a spouse or a child, or to have someone buy equity in the business, or for the business to buy equity in somebody else. Like we get so wrapped up in this industry about recruiting and I'm going to recruit you away from him and he's going to recruit me away from you and all that talk, which is all survival level conversation. But what if you had such a well-organized business that somebody said, I'd like to invest, X amount of money for X amount of equity? That's the kind of reality that next level processing and organization allows. Or what if you had so much organization in your business, you could buy equity in somebody else's business and you didn't have to recruit them away and transfer their contracts and all that crap. You can simply buy 25% of ABC final expense. Like those kind of things are a reality that literally nobody talks about live for people to see.
Yeah, well, and also, talking about hiring staff and that, I talked in the past about how first company, well, the main final expense company I worked for 11 years. I remember the owner of the company used to come out and talk to us, and he had kind of like 10 steps to success sort of thing. And one of them was don't be a cab driver. We talk about don't cut off work early because you got to, do stuff for other people, figure out other ways of doing that, pay somebody to do those sort of things. But I look at it from a business standpoint too. When building a business, why do stuff yourself that you could pay other people to do for you? Time is money. Look at the appointment setting team and how they set up our week full of appointments. There's no way I would be able to do both. There's no way I would have the time to call all those leads and set up all those appointments and go out and work appointments. So there's no way. So sometimes I think it's good, pay someone else to do the stuff that's going to help make you more money and free up time to do other stuff that's going to help you to become even more profitable.
Yeah, we have a cleaning company that comes through twice a week. And it isn't that we couldn't physically clean the house
twice a week.
No, twice a month. Sorry, twice a month.
Twice a month. Your house has got to be messy. Holy cow!
Twice a month. Sorry. It was just yesterday. And not that we weren't physically capable of cleaning the house, but also we should deserve to live our life at some point and not just like do everything. Someone cuts the grass in the summer. I love cutting the grass in the past. It was relaxing. It was an hour where I could just drive that mower and focus on nothing, literally nothing. But that was an hour I didn't get to live my life. So get to the point where you get the opportunity to pay other people to do things so you can live your life. Appointment setting, like Adam said, there would be no time on a Monday for me to dial, literally none. And if I did, it would be taken away from doing something else that could grow the business, like calling recruits, managing. I just couldn't do it. So I appreciate you agreeing and you buying in, especially on the appointment setting. I was thinking on the way back from the bus stop this morning, just an idea, and I'll mention it live, see what people think. I'm like, I wonder if an agent was willing to spend a couple dollars more, if not only could they make their appointment setter, but also their personal assistant. Like, what else could that person do to make you more money and give you some more sanity back to your life? I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if it's a reality, but it's an idea. Like, and that's just hiring people and paying them more to help you grow your business and live outside of your business, because we're not robots. You're going to talk about your week in a minute, but I think it's important to remind ourselves this isn't just all a hustle. It's a business. It's a reality. And you're doing it so that you can do other things like live your life and have fun. So Adam, tell us about your week. How'd you do? What'd you write? What can people do to kind of copy that next week?
Yeah, it was a good week, Chris. Yeah, I don't know. All of a sudden, it seemed like more and more people were like more like back into buying mode. Uh, and my last few weeks, it was a lot more of the other. Just a lot of rejection, a lot of doors slammed in my face, just a lot of people in a bad mood. And yeah, this week it was like total opposite. I mean, and I'll get into it, but yeah, I had people calling me wanting to take out policies. So, this week, I'm usually just out Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I had two appointments Monday morning. Last Friday, I went out and door knocked, and I usually don't work on Fridays, but I did just because I didn't have as good of a week as I wanted to have. So I decided to go back out on Friday. I forget, somehow I had set up an appointment for Friday, I think, that ended up getting me out there. But anyways, yeah, Monday I had a 9 a.m. appointment. They weren't home. And then I had another appointment right after that. It was a lady that I had already wrote a policy on, and she was wanting to take out a policy on her son. And I was having some difficulty getting him covered. He's only like in his mid 40s. She thought that he was in good health. I don't know what's in his medical background, but I tried like 2 or 3 carriers. They all declined him. And I ended up writing GTL. So wrote the GTL policy. I think that's a great policy for the unhealthy. It's going to pay half of the face amount after the first 12 months, where, you could write somebody a modified policy who's got maybe health issues that aren't even as concerning as what GTL would insure. And the traditional modified is just that complete return of premium plus 10% interest the first year, usually the same the second year. So to go from, I think the first year it pays either 5 or 10% interest on their money. And then the second year it's paying half of the face. That's a pretty good benefit. So yeah, when people are unhealthy lately, that's usually who I tend to go with. Is the GTL. Seems pretty simple, pretty easy e-app. And that was pretty much it for my Monday. I came back home and I got back to my normal Monday in the office, just kind of catching up on stuff, calling some recruits and stuff like that. And then Tuesday I did a little bit of door knocking early in the morning, and then I had 11 a.m. appointment with an existing policy holder. I wasn't low on leads. I had plenty of leads. I added a bunch of my existing policy holders into a spreadsheet to have our appointment setters call. I was like I said, the last few weeks, maybe just in a little bit of a slump, wanted to maybe just get in front of some people that would be more open to hearing me talk. and definitely kind of got me right back into the right mindset of just working with people that have already dealt with me in the past. So yeah, first appointment, 11 a.m. was an existing policy holder that she had several other policies. Talked to her also about Medicare. Just couldn't really do anything in addition for her. She took my card. I have magnet business cards now, so I throw them up on the refrigerator, and I tell them that way.
Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. What an easy way to make extra money. Mark your territory. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I tell them, that way you're never going to lose me. I'll be right on your fridge. You ever need me, that's, you'll be able to find me and you can call me. And so anyways, and I think I'll probably end up getting some referrals out of that too. Nothing yet, but I think I'll probably get some referrals. Anyways, one nice thing with what I do, and I know it's one thing that Chris kind of adapted to as well, was loading our leads onto our iPads. Mm-hmm. And I know, Chris, you use Notability. I use an app called Good Notes. They're both pretty much the same. You can set up like different folders. You can organize things. But the one thing that I really, really like, and some of the leads is like an extra step. You just kind of have to know how to do it in Adobe, but you can make it where the leads are searchable. And so I always make all of my leads searchable before I put them into Good Notes. So then that way, when I'm in a building, I could search for like the address and it's going to pop up. Yeah. Any lead that's in that building is going to pop up on my iPad. So I didn't get anywhere with that lady. I had a little bit of time before my next appointment. And yeah, it was like a senior apartment complex. I knew I had other leads in that building from the past. And if anything, you go to like the dial pad, and if you can't get in, if you're door knocking the lead, there might not be somebody there that'll let you in, and you're back to the car. So I was already in the building. I figured, heck, I'm going to try to knock out some of these leads of people I've never been able to get a hold of. And I searched a lead, and it was one of those need a lead check leads. For those of you who are unfamiliar, it's a lead that talks specifically about final expense insurance. It's very straight and to the point. People know it's about final expense insurance. And we're basically bribing the person with a $10 check in order for them to allow us to come see them, to talk to them about the final expense plans that are available. So the person sign their name on the check, they endorse it, they take it to the bank, they do their mobile banking or whatever. There you go, Chris. And so anyways, this was a check lead that was like from May. Just never got a hold of the person. I knock on the door. Nobody comes to the door. And her room, her apartment room or whatever was like right by the elevator. And so I'm walking back to the elevator to go back down, and this lady's getting off the elevator. And before the door closed to the elevator, I looked to see where this lady was going, and she was actually going to the door that I was just knocking on. So I forget her name. I'll just say Beverly. I knocked on her door again. Hey, I don't even think she was in her room yet. I said, "Hey, Beverly, I was actually here to see you." She's like, "Really? For what?" And I showed her the check lead. I said, I'm Adam with Senior Benefits. You'd sent this check back requesting some information. You had cashed this check. It was a $10 check. And basically it was you committing to me coming by to see you to talk about the final expense plans that are available. And so I'm here, takes about 10 minutes. Let's go through it. So she said, "All right, fine, come on in." And we sat down. She had plenty of final expense insurance. Couldn't really get anywhere with her on any of that. But then we started talking about the Medicare. and then 48 hours later, I went back and wrote it. So,
I am
so
impressed by the level of compliance that you practiced in that situation and how compliantly you made that presentation. It's important. It's important. I'm just disheveled at how compliant you were in that sale. It's important to remember when you're in an area that you already have leads to pay attention to the fact you already have leads. When you already have clients in that building, you should never have a reason why you can't get back in that building. Like, just pay attention to your surroundings, and guess what? You'll find people you've already met or other people that you can sell. I wouldn't know what to do without Notability, and I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't spend an hour every week cutting out leads. I don't do that anymore. I cut that out of
yeah.
my life. Thank you for encouraging me to do so. But I also like to, and I don't know if you do this, and not to interrupt your breakdown of the week, but in the mornings now, I take my leads and I put them in order. I have a separate section here called prior week's appointments. And I just put the day together on my iPad and I just scroll through it when I get there. And I make notes on it throughout the course of the day. But I like to keep, like, I can go back, and this is appointments 11/6/2024, Philadelphia. And if I had a no show, I can kind of cut and paste it back into the next day. I like to put all my appointments in order, and it seems kind of official and far less annoying than printing and cutting and tracking and putting it in a box and taking it out of the front seat and all that stuff from the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, that piece of business, Chris, that I wrote, I would have never wrote. I mean, I was already in the building. I mean, and had I had to like sort through a whole bunch of leads that I had cut out, I mean, I don't know if I would have found other leads in that building. This just really helps to stay so much better organized, to be able to pull stuff like that out and find those leads of people that, again, like I said, these apartment buildings, you're going to have other people in that building. I do the same thing though when I'm in an area. I mean, I'll just plug in the zip code. I mean, there's some zip codes I have 150, 200 leads in, where,
Yeah.
I can plug in 4 or 5 of them before a next stop if I have a little bit of time to kill, and maybe knock another one out. So then, on to, that was my only piece of business on Tuesday. So I didn't write any final expense business, but I still came home with at least something, that one piece of Medicare business that I went back 48 hours later and wrote. Now Wednesday, first appointment Wednesday was, let's see, Wednesday. Okay. I'm just looking at my notes here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I missed some things, but I think I remember. Anyways, yeah, Wednesday, my first appointment, I showed up 9:00 in the morning. I wasn't expecting much. It was an existing policy holder that I think I wrote back in February of last year, and I already had the appointment setters call them earlier this year, and I wrote additional business on them back in February or March of this year. So they set up the appointment. I just really wasn't expecting a whole lot, because I already wrote this person additional coverage earlier in the year. I just didn't think that there'd be anything there. So anyways, I sat down, and husband and wife, the wife says, Adam, I got a few other policies. I just wanted you to take a look at them real quick and let me know what you think, if you think it's a good thing. She said, I'm also, we bought this house a little over a year ago, and we want to make sure that we're covered, or at least I'm covered, with some sort of mortgage insurance. She said, we owe about $300,000 on this house. So see what you can do. I said, okay. So she pulls out her policies, and she had 2 Americo 15-year term policies that were 100,000 in $100,000 in coverage apiece. And then she also had a 25-year Transamerica term policy that was for 75,000. So she had 275,000 in coverage, and she was paying like $240 a month. And so I went through, I ran some rates, and I found her a 30-year term with Transamerica, 300,000 in coverage. And I was able to add like 6 of her children or grandchildren on as riders, where each one of them was covered with 25,000 apiece as well. And the premium was right about what she was paying for those 3 other policies combined. So I told her, like, she was 53 years old. I mean, I told her, heck, by the time you're 60, she took it out like a year or two ago. I said, by the time you're like 66, 67, those $100,000, $200,000 worth of your coverage with America is going to go away. But you're still going to owe money on your house. And, the other one's a 25-year term, but still, I mean, you're still going to owe money. God forbid something were to happen to you before those policies run out. But, or after those policies run out. So I told her, I said, this is a much better option. You'll get a 30-year term that's going to cover the whole 30 years of your mortgage. God forbid anything were to happen to you, but at least you know that your home will be paid for. And she agreed. So that was a good sale. It was like 2,600, a little over 2,600 in premium. So, and then I had 2 appointments after that, existing policy holders that I talked to about adding coverage. Neither one of them could really afford anymore. And both of those appointments, I went back 48 hours later and wrote them Medicare business. So it's amazing how that works.
Time machine, freaking time machine.
Yeah.
You jumped right in it just, and compliance is a great guardrail, but compliance was never designed to inhibit helping seniors. And a lot of these seniors would never have the help that they deserved if someone like you hadn't shown up with knowledge and experience and a desire to help them. So compliance is a great thing, but it isn't designed to keep you from helping people. I think that's important for Medicare agents to understand. And when you write enough Medicare business, you're going to get complaints. That's just a normal part of doing business. You show them the paperwork compliantly generated the way it was supposed to be, and that's the end of it. As long as you're doing the right thing by people, you're not going to be burdened by, compliance.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this time of year, these people they're all looking around. They're looking at their coverage, but they're being bombarded with phone calls. I mean, I was sitting down with a lady last night, bombarded with phone calls. They're all calling about what I'm sitting there talking to her about. Mm-hmm. So it definitely is on a lot of people's minds right now. And I think that's another thing too. I think talking about Medicare, I think it's going to keep me in front of my clients a lot more than the final expense. Yeah, they'll call me probably about different stuff with claims and things like that, but yeah, they're going to be in front of me more. That can lead to additional final expense business too. And I know that I'll have to stay in front of my clients because they're being bombarded by people with all of these phone calls, trying to talk them into changing their plans. Like I said earlier, I'm trying to build these renewals up. Well, it's going to be difficult to hit that 400 to make $100,000 a year in renewals if half my business is falling off from someone else replacing it. So
yeah,
that's why I think it's definitely very important to be responsible on this side of the business and keeping up with the clients and letting them know that you're here. So, but yeah. So anyways, same thing, business on Wednesday that I would have went home with just that one big Transamerica app and ended up being able to go back to write 2 more Medicare pieces of business. So like I said, I'm not even really keeping track of the money that's coming in off of that stuff. It's I'll just look at that as dessert after dinner.
Exactly.
But then yesterday, same thing. I had another appointment that I just remember sitting down with this lady back in, it was probably February or March. And I mean, she was scrapping for money. I wrote her at the time a $10,000 American Amicable policy. And I think it was like maybe $48 a month, something like that. And even that at the time for her was like a stretch. So, and I just remember it was the house that I walked in was going back into it. I just, it was just kind of like didn't have a good feeling that I'd get anything out of it. And again, sometimes, maybe our mindset can fail us, but yeah, I went in and sat down with the lady. We were talking, and she said, "Yeah, the 10,000 is great for what I need to cover my funeral because I want to be cremated, but I also want to leave my family a little bit more." She said, "How much would it be for another 15,000?" And I'm just thinking, you could barely handle paying $48 a month, and now you're asking me about another 15,000 in coverage. Like, to me, it almost makes me kind of a little nervous. But anyways, yeah, I went through it with her and ended up writing her a $15,000 American Amicable policy. She liked American Amicable. Everything I told her about them was true. They're good with taking out the money. And she said, "Yeah, just I want the same company, just an additional policy with them. Sure, be happy to help you." So again, one that I didn't think I would write, just poor mindset going in. You just never know what you're going to run into. And I might end up going back and writing her kids some policies too, because they don't have anything. And then I had a policy holder call me right before that appointment. The area that the appointment was in, I'm not in very often. It's a little bit more south, a little bit more rural. And this guy called me. He said, "Adam, my Polish Falcons premium, I don't think it came out this month. I think I was hacked, this and that."
These 4 seniors get hacked all the time,
Yeah. Yeah. He said, can you give me their phone number so I can go ahead and set that payment up because I don't want to lose my insurance. And I said, "Oh, sure. I can do that." And then we were just talking a little bit. He said, "I think I want to maybe up my insurance too. I was thinking about maybe going, maybe like another 20,000 in coverage or whatever." I said, "Hey, how about I just swing by in a little bit? I'm kind of in your area." I was probably about maybe 20, 25 minutes away from him. I said, "I'm kind of in your area. How about I just swing by?" I had other appointments set, but I figured, heck, if I got to go late to these others, if I have an opportunity to make a sale,
money.
I'm going to go ahead and go write that guy. So I went out of my way, went to help this guy and sat down, went through things. And he had some health incidents back in July. I think I wrote him back in like May. So his health had changed since I originally wrote the policy. And in order to write him additional coverage, the premium was just going to be like drastically high, and much higher than the policy that he already had. So that was where I ended up. He said he just couldn't afford anymore. I was getting up to leave, and then like a bell rung in my head, and I'm like, "How are you set up with your Medicare?"
Ding, ding,
like,
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Yeah. I was serious. I was like, just about walking back to my car. I'm like, why didn't I ask that guy about his Medicare? And I asked him, he said, "Well, I think he said he went back to WellCare or something. He said, I used to get this nice little monthly allowance for food and all this other stuff. They took that away. And I looked up plans in his area, and I found one where he's going to be getting $175 a month for food and groceries, stuff like that." And there was also like a $500 annual debit card that they give him for like other stuff. So yeah, he was happy. He was, and the copays on the plan were really low. It was much better than how he was already set up. So I think I got about 36 more hours and I can go back and write that guy. So
you're just so compliant. It's the Pope is proud of you. Mother Teresa is smiling in her grave, and the gods of compliance are like, "We are so proud of his compliance today." It's just that's impressive that you just remember to ask the question, and just asking the question, the one extra question will make people so much more money, but also will take better care of their clients in a way that most agents are just too damn lazy to do.
Yeah, and then and so anyways, the rest of my day, I had I had a few appointments. Another existing policy holder that I'll be going back to write. I went through the whole app last night. I got her approved, and but she needs to get her bank info. The policy that she has with me right now is actually on a Direct Express card, and she didn't qualify with the carrier. I tried putting her through last night on the Direct Express card, but she did qualify on one that accepts checking and savings. She has a checking and savings account. She's just, I don't know. She's 75 years old. She's a little bit older. She's had policies with me for years. So I know that I'll get that business, just haven't yet. And then after that, had a couple other appointments. Another lady, I'm actually going back next week to talk Medicare too. It was
Next
just
week.
getting a little, it was just getting a little late. And just, I forget, there was a reason we couldn't finish going through it yesterday. But anyways, yeah, truthfully, yeah, I am going back next week on that one. And then last night I get home, heck, you had already texted me. I think I told you, yeah, I'm already home. We were texting a little bit about preparing for our meeting, our call, our training this morning. And yeah, it was like 8:45 at night. I just put my son to bed, and my wife and daughters, they were out. They had some school event that they were at, and my phone rang. It was like, yeah, 8:45. My phone's ringing. It didn't say scam likely or anything like that.
Money likely.
And it was like a local number. And I'm like, I'm just going to pick it up. I don't know who this is, but I'm going to pick it up. And she says, "Hey, Adam," she told me who she was. She said, "I need to get some insurance." She said, "I had a policy with you." She said, "and it lapsed back in June. And I need to get some insurance. I need to get my insurance back." She said, I was watching TV and the Colonial Penn commercial popped up, and I was pulling my phone out and I was about to call them. And I thought to myself, why should I call them when I could just call Adam? She said, so anyway, she said, "I want to get together to get my policy back started." And same thing. She had some health issues that she had not had in the past. And I figured, you know what, I'm just going to knock this thing out right now. And I wrote her a Royal Arc policy, the graded, close to guaranteed issue, simple process, easy to do over the phone. Took about, from the time that she called me through conversation, was probably on the phone for about maybe 45 minutes. And I'm going out to see her next week to help her with her Medicare. But yeah, so that was another one last night. I ended up writing $868 in premium. So ended up hitting my goal over 5,000 for the week. I think I was like 5,100 for the week, plus 4 pieces of Medicare business and more to come.
Wow.
So yeah, I was happy with that. Really the first week that I really kind of dug into really asking more people about Medicare. And like I said, houses I was in that I could not do anything to help them with their life insurance, I still walked out with something, where in the past I would have walked out with nothing. So
yeah, and
I think that'll all start to add up.
Yeah, 4 a week puts him on track for $5,000 a month in renewals. 4 a week, that's it. That's 4 a week with week 1 level experience. And if $5,000 a month in renewals doesn't move you as a final expense agent, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do to help that. And here's the sad reality. Final expense renewals are continuing to decrease with every new product that they release. And even with big final expense renewals, you're never going to get $5,000 a month. It's just not going to happen. No, it's not. But 4 Medicare plans a week with week 1 level experience, you'll get there very quickly. And I think it was exciting to hear your breakdown on the week. I think it was enlightening to hear. I think when people listen to the ups and downs of what you do, they understand the reality of the business. And I hope over the course of the last 1 hour and 23 minutes, many of the things that we said help people out there this week and next week make more money and become more satisfied in their business development.
Yeah, and definitely. And to last in the business. That's a lot of what we talked about today, was just things that are going to help you last in the business, to prepare people the right way. So for sure. So yeah, thanks again, Chris. And hope y'all have a great end to your week, and we'll see you next week.
If you've watched this in the future, today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now, drop us a comment and any questions you want us to cover, any content you found engaging, even if it's just a friend or family or War Market folk out there on Facebook, drop us a comment if you got a chance to watch today's video. Appreciate it, and we'll see you guys for another Dynamic Friday next week.